Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and this Python tutorial series. I am Aditya. In the last video, we saw the concept of loops. In this video, we are going to see the concept of functions. So we'll be seeing what are functions, how they are used, how to pass parameters to them, how to use keys in functions, and how to have a default value, arbitrary keywords, arbitrary value, and lambda function. So let's do it step by step. So what are functions? So functions are nothing but a piece of code that you can reuse wherever and however you want. The piece of code doesn't get executed by itself, so you have to execute it through code, or you have to trigger an event to execute that code. So let's see how it works. Let's write a normal addition function and let's see why we need function. Okay, so let's write addition code without a function actually. So I will say there is num1 equal to 50, num2 equal to 100, and there is sum equal to num1 plus num2, and all we need to do is print addition is, and just typecast this integer to string so that our strings are concatenated. Now if I run this function, or rather run this piece of code, I will get 150. So now suppose if this 4 lines I want to use in my code again and again and again, or I might want to call this whenever required. So in that case, I don't want to rewrite this code again. So how can I do it? I can just use a function and then call it whenever I want. Okay, so how to write a function in Python? It's very simple. So we just use the word def, def, and then we give the name of the function. So in this case, as I'm printing addition, so I will write print addition. Of course, you can give any name to function. It's just like giving names to variables. You just have to follow the same nomenclature, but you just need to make sure that what your function is doing, that should be explained by the name. So here, as it is saying that it's printing sum, so I'll say print sum, and then all I need to do is just give a colon over here and copy this piece of code and paste it after this line with an indentation so that this will become one block of code. Okay, and if I take it up over here, now this all became one block of code over till here, and this comes under this function print sum. Now if I run this code, it will do nothing because I need to call this function manually through the code. So how to call a function? It's pretty simple. I'll just say print sum, the name of the function, and 2 parentheses, or sorry, round bracket. So if I then run this code, I will get addition is 150. Okay, now suppose this number 1 and number 2 are dynamic. I mean, they are taken from the user and they are very unpredictable. Like number 1 can be 30 or 20, or number 2 can be 1000, 9000, anything. So to fit the purpose of function, we can pass the parameters in it, or pass the parameters in the function call. Okay, so this thing at line number 11 is known as calling the function. So let's remove number 1 and number 2 from here. And as you could see, we are getting a warning or the error that it's not defined. So we can define it by passing it as a parameter. So we will say number 1, that's the first parameter. Number 2 is the second parameter. So now our sum has number 1 and number 2, which will be dynamic, or which will be user defined. So now all I need to do is, suppose if user enters 30 and 40. So if I say 30, 40, and now if I run this, it will give me 70. So this 30 is getting assigned to number 1. This 40 is getting assigned to number 2. Also, you need to make sure that you are passing it in a sequence the way you defined over here. So number 1 is defined first, so you should have the value for number 1 first. Number 2 is defined second, so you should have the value of number 2 second. Okay, I'll just bring this down over here because it's from the second part. Okay, so we pass it with the parameters. Now, what if, suppose I just passed 30 and like I just run this, it will give me an error. So you need to make sure that whatever number of arguments you have defined here, so number one and number two is nothing but the arguments of the function. So whatever arguments or parameters you have defined over here, you have to pass the same number of parameters when you call the function. Okay, so we need to have 30 and 40 as we are doing addition of two numbers, so we have to pass two numbers in the function call. Also, suppose after, or suppose if you are doing this function for, say, for a big project, and in that big project it might be difficult to find, like, okay, is number 2 should be passed first or number 1 should be passed first, but you know that the arguments of that function are number 1 and number 2. Like even if you write print sum and just give it like this, you will see number 1 and number 2. Num 1 and num 2 are the arguments of that function. Like with VS Code helper, the Python extension, you can come to know this, or even if you are using other code editor, it will give you the hint. So from this we know that num1 is the key and num2 is the another key in that function. So how we will do it now, if we want to pass number 2 first, then we will just say number 2 equal to 40 and number 1 equal to 20. Okay, so in this case, number 2 will get the value of 40 and number 1 will get the value of 20. Okay, we will do like this as well. We'll print number 1 is, we will say, like this, str number 1. We'll do the same thing for number 2. So here we will do number 2, same thing for number 1 and number 2. And now if we run this, you will see number 1 is 30, number 1 is 40 over here. But here we change the sequence by passing it with keys. We get number 1 is 20 over here, number 1 is 20 and number 2 is 40. So number 2 is 40 and we get 60. Okay, so if you pass the value with assigning it with a key, like the actual key that you defined over here, then you can do it in any sequence. But if you don't use keys, then you have to follow the sequence in which they are defined over here. Okay, so now we did with keys. Now let's go with default value. Now if we just pass one value to our print sum, so if I say print sum and just say 20, and if I run this, I will get an error for sure because it expects two values. So in this case, you can have a default value to your function, or in one parameter of your function, in this case 40, and thus passing number 2 as number 2 value becomes optional. So number 1 is mandatory, you need to pass number 1, but number 2 is optional. So if you don't pass number 2, it will be 40. So if I run this code, it will say number 1 is 20, number 2 is 40 and addition is 60. But in case if I change over here and pass 60, so number 1 becomes 20, number 2 becomes 60 and not 40 because we have supplied the value of number 2 here. If we don't supply the value, then it takes the default value that we have mentioned over here. Okay, so this is with default value. Now let's see how about the arbitrary value. So suppose I'm having, say, 20 numbers or 100 numbers and I want to do addition of them. So passing them, we don't know how many arguments, like we cannot go like this, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6 and so on, and have default value for everyone. So in this case, what we could do is we can pass the list of numbers or we can have the arbitrary values. So instead of doing it like this, all we need to do is just put one asterisk and say number. Okay, now if I just comment this out, and also let's comment this out, and let's just simply print num. And now if I call the function print sum, let's say 20, I will get a tuple of with value 20. So what it is doing is arbitrary values. You can pass dynamic number of parameters for the function if it has an arbitrary value. So you could pass like one number, in this case like 2, 3, 100, anything. So it doesn't matter. However, you just need to make sure that the arbitrary value comes before, or sorry, comes at the very end. Because if you pass something like this, let's say I'm doing number 1 and then passing it number 2 as arbitrary value, then if I do something like say 20, 30, 40, 50, and if I have another over here, let's say number 2, and if I do 60, now what will happen is, let's see, so if I print this, it will give me an error because this thing is treated like, and everything after 20 is treated as arbitrary values. So what we need to do is always need to make sure that arbitrary values, if we are passing with some required parameters, they are always passed at the end, something like this. And then if we run this, it will work. So 40, 50, 60 becomes arbitrary values, while this 20 and 30 is nothing but number 1 and number 2. So if I just uncomment this and then rerun this, so 20, 30 becomes number 1, number 2, and arbitrary values become whatever after 30 comes the arbitrary values. Okay, now another thing is how to use arbitrary values. So as they are tuples, you can simply use indexes or indices. So you could say 0. So if I print with the same function call num of 0, then I will get 40 instead of this extra tuple. So if I just go over here and just do like this, I will get 40. In case if you are unsure about how many index are there, then simply you can use a for loop. In that for loop, you just have to iterate over that num, and then you just have to process it however you want. Okay, so that was with arbitrary values. Now what is arbitrary keywords? Okay, so now here we have number 1, number 2, and then the arbitrary values. In arbitrary keywords, we use double asterisk, and then we just give a variable name. So in this case, I will say, let's say, okay. So now what's happening here is, okay, so it's not defined, so I'll just remove it from here. Now let's just print keys, then we will come to know what's happening. So here I am saying number 1 equal to 20, number 2 equal to 30, and then I can say last, or number 3 equal to 40, number 5 equal to 50, number 6 equal to 60, like this. Okay, yeah. Now if I print this, let's clear screen so that we can see the other thing. And if I print this, you will see that we are having number 1, number 2 value as it is 20 and 30, while everything after that, we haven't defined here number 3, we haven't defined number, sorry, yeah, we haven't defined number 3, number 5, number 6. Oh, that didn't take number 4. So let's keep it in sequence so it's not confusing. Okay, so let's rerun it again. So we didn't define number 3, number 4, number 5. We haven't defined them. Still, they are being used. This is because we are using arbitrary keywords value. Okay, so what's happening is this double asterisk keys is taking extra number of keys and values, even though if we don't define them. So anything after number 2 will become like an extra number of keys and value. Okay, so if I want to say just access number 5, so all I need to do is just put here number 5, and then if I run this, I will get 60. Okay, so arbitrary keys are used when, or arbitrary keywords are used when you know, actually I will take this over here, when you know what keys are supposed to be used. Okay, and in where you like kind of don't want to like make your function bulky with random keys, so you just use arbitrary keywords. So in this case, I don't want like number 1 equal number 3 equal to 40, number 4 equal to whatnot, number 5 equal to whatnot, number 6 equal to whatnot, and make it optional. Because if I don't pass any of these, it will only take number 1 and number 2. So if I run this, it will say num5 is not there. But if I just remove it from here like this, oops, sorry, then it will just print as an empty dictionary. So this is how it works. Okay, so arbitrary values are taken as tuples, while arbitrary keywords is taken as dictionary. So that's the difference. Now let's see what is a lambda function. So lambda function is a special functionality in the Python that it's very highly used. So it's nothing but it has n number of variables or arguments, but it has only one expression. Okay, so this might be difficult to understand. So let's write a quick lambda function. So I will use x equal to lambda. So this is the keyword we use, lambda, and then I need to define the number of variables. Suppose if I am having two variables, so a comma b, then all I need to do is just put a colon after this, and what to do with this a and b. So I will say a plus b. Okay, and now how to call this lambda function? So I will just, for the time being, this uncomment this, and to call this lambda function, all I need to do is just write x and pass two values in this. So one will be 10, the other will be 20. So these are the two numbers I want to print sum of. So now if I run this, oh sorry, I didn't print this. So this should be print this. So if I run this now, it will give me 30. Okay, so this is how lambda function works. The main power of lambda function is that it can be used inside a function. So for in this case, suppose if we just go over here and remove this, and let's just put it over here like this. And all we need to do is go over here, take it from here and over here. Instead of this, we have to do num1, and here we have to do num2. Okay, now if I go and run this code again with let's say print sum 20 and 30, so I should get 50. So I run this, I'm getting 50 over here. So you can write lambda function inside another function. Okay, and the power of this is you can use any expression over here. Like I can say maybe I can do a multiplication, or I can do something like say division, or like this, or it's not just arithmetic operations, but you can also do other operations. Like if you want to do certain string operations, or if you want to do certain other operations, you can do it in lambda function, provided you are just having one expression, while values can be any number of values. So that's all about functions. In the next video, we are going to see the concept of object-oriented programming, and then we will after that gonna see how to use object-oriented programming in Python. So if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you feel this video is worth sharing, please do share with your network. So that's all from me. Till the next time, goodbye and see you in the next video.